for example. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is IDAGIO Live, the place where classical music happens, and this is Tuesday. So this must be Song and Beyond, the co-production of Hampsong Foundation and IDAGIO.com. It's a very exciting series that we started in September, and it's fantastic to welcome all of you also on the Hampsong Foundation Facebook Live page, as well as IDAGIO Live. And we've really been getting a nice community going. I mean, sometimes 3,000 to 4,000 people are checking. I didn't know there were that many crazy people that love song. I'm really very happy about it. As you all know me, you know I'm absolutely crazy about song. I think poetry set to music is one of the most fascinating, if not the most fascinating entrance into any epoch of any culture. And ergo, all this historical connectivity, all of this harmonic development, all of the psychological and sociological ramifications that song brings with it. It's just, it's overwhelming to me. So welcome to Song, and that's why it's Song and Beyond. Tonight, these two wonderful people sitting in front of you, one you know, certainly for the last couple of months. I think, Susan, we've been together, what, 3 times now? Susan Youens, Professor, Doctor, Professor, Doctor, Professor. I love you. From America. Where are you right now? Where are you right now?
I am in South Bend, Indiana, at home in quarantine.
Oh, you're a shut-in.
I'm a shut-in.
And I think we're all going to presume that that pole behind you with furry characteristics is not your exercise room.
No, it's not exercise equipment. My 2 cats own Chateau Schubert, Villa Wolf. I'm just the caretaker.
Exactly. That's what we say around it. We've got 3 dogs in the house right now. We are staff.
That's right.
And up here we have Marcelo.
Marcelo is perfect.
Marcelo Amaral. It's we've never met. We know of one another. We've corresponded a little bit. And it's wonderful to welcome you here. Your exact title, you are with the International Hugo-Wolf-Akademie. Is that not correct?
Actually, I just have been incredibly lucky to be associated with them. I am, in a way, in the same capacity as you just have joined them in a kind of artistic advisory board, which is this Künstlerisches Beirat.
Yeah.
Through the Hugo-Wolf-Akademie, I had immense number of opportunities, both to do concerts for them, with them, and being sort of actively involved in supporting them in their many initiatives. I consider them one of the very great institutions promoting song in Germany. It's astonishing that we don't have many in Germany. So I felt very, very privileged to be part of that and continue to do so. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's wonderful.
It's great to meet you. It's great to have you on the show. And the point of tonight, I mean, you know, Song and Beyond, right? I mean, that's one of the methods to my madness of this thing with IDAGIO, with the Hampsong Foundation, is tying up all of these wonderful pockets of song activity. I have to admit, ladies and gentlemen, I have to sort of shift my brain a little bit, as you well know, because you've been with me all last week. We just completed the annual Schubert week. And yes, regardless of us talking a lot about Hugo Wolf, January is Schubert month, officially crowned by yours truly. But we wrapped up an incredible, I have to tell you, I mean, can you imagine? We had 6 evening concerts from Monday to Sunday. We had 30 hours of instruction, 6 of which are online. All of 6 concerts are online. By the way, all of this is on the Pierre Boulez website, as well as our Hampsong Foundation website, and will be intact for the next month. So if you missed anything or you're curious, you can drop the needle all you want. Everything is online. I taught online. I had 4 other Dozenten mit mir, the pianist that played Wolfram Rieger and Gerhard Huber, gave classes. We had the famous actress Martina Gedeck came and worked on the day I had a recital. I didn't tell anybody, and she gave 4.5 hours of poetry recitation and study. I mean, and kids' heads were just bursting. And I mean, she is just such a wonderful actress, but a wonderful teacher and person. My goodness, of the 10 singers that sang concerts all week, 7 of them were under the age of 30.
Fantastic.
I'm extremely proud of that. It's all about the next generation. And
Yes.
we're all performing and writing, and you're recording tomorrow, and I'm still singing. I sang last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, but it's you know, and not just the pandemic, but yes, also the pandemic. The younger generation, my young colleagues, have been robbed of a process of development and have been stolen an opportunity world of singing Lieder, especially, that was already ashamedly deteriorating.
Yes.
Don't get me started, but whatever, it is what it is, and now we can provide opportunities. But the number I like the best. Are you ready for this? In 6 days, we sang, or you heard, over 160 individual separate Schubert songs.
Fantastic.
Now, we need to get that going in the Wolf Academy as well. Although, goodness, you've done so much there. I love the Academy. I was very honored they asked me to come participate going on since I'm next door in the Heidelberg Lied Academy, where we have 2 weeks of intense seminar. The more we can bring all of us together that are so like-minded and giving so much opportunity to young singers, the better. And that's where we land tonight. Both of you are Schubert experts, but we're also going to
Not at all.
this huge
Yes,
art.
you are.
into
Marcelo is not allowed to put himself down.
Okay. What's my first question? Okay. First of all, it's all about the 29th of January, which is Saturday night, no? Saturday? Friday?
Friday, I think.
I don't know.
Friday night, the 29th of January, which is 2 days away from Schubert's birthday. Forget about Schubert. The 29th of January is a global concert hall concert under the series called Arts at Future, which is the other cooperation that the Hampsong Foundation is doing with IDAGIO, which is really about young singers and giving them their platform in their own series, so they're not competing with all the old dogs like me and all that. So not that singing is competing, but you know what I mean. It's a wonderful series. We have conservatories, we have young artist programs, we have telephones ringing. Whose is that? It's not me.
It's not me.
Sorry, it's not me. It's now gone. Just live. What do you want? We have, what was I talking about?
Oh, the concert on the 29th. And
Exactly.
You have put together a concert of various concerts. Is that not correct, Marcelo?
Exactly. Cornelia Weider, who is the director of the Hugo-Wolf-Akademie, she made a selection throughout the year, since the very beginning of this series of complete concerts.
Tell us about this series. This is an evidence of a series of all of Wolfsong. That's what your project was,
Exactly.
Right?
I had this amazing opportunity to be associated with the Hugo-Wolf-Akademie for some years since I have moved to Germany. And one of my very most important concerts that ever took place in Germany, and was actually the very beginning of my career as a song pianist, really took place at the Hugo-Wolf-Akademie, and was at that time with Juliana Banzer, which made a huge difference in my life. Was a wonderful artist and colleague. And throughout that whole experience, I became more and more involved in the Hugo-Wolf-Akademie, also because of the same passion that all three of us shared, and they saw my enthusiasm. And it's also funny to be perhaps one of, if not the only, Brazilian ever to be an advocate for German song. But it's something I'm very proud of it.
It's nice that you say that, because if I may, Susan, if you can just hang on, because I really, you've got, we need to get to know you a bit, Marcelo. You are Brazilian. You've
Yes.
lived in Germany for some time. We are having a conversation in English, but you obviously are fließend auf Deutsch, and
Yes.
this is your repertoire. You live in Nuremberg. Can you give us kind of a 3-minute Wikipedia?
Well, I will try to make it very short. Actually, I come from a very modest family in Brazil who are not musicians, and have a very typical South American history of a person trying to pursue a life in music with no prerequisites, no professional training, none of the typical conditions. So in fact, I consider my life a little bit of a miracle, and have sort of a beyond gratitude that I can be a professional musician because I never imagined I would come this far. And eventually life took me, I left my family at a very young age and had to support myself, which makes for the whole very arduous training as a pianist somewhat of an impossible task. But I end up being in the US for my studies, and I did my undergraduate at Indiana University in South Bend, where Susan lives.
Wilmington, I think.
Actually, we didn't really know each other at the time, but there was a person through whom we were connected, which was Lisa Feuerzeit.
Oh my
who
gosh.
was a doctoral student of Susan. So that was the first time I heard about Susan. At the time, I was trying to learn how to play the piano. So somehow there were other concerns, but I was always connected to song. And eventually I did my master's in Cleveland. I became very involved with song, met wonderful people who were very essential in my life in terms of how this direction towards singers and song took place. I was at Santa Barbara with Merlin Horn in the Academy. I had many classes with Warren Jones, who was an incredible, important, inspirational force in my life and in my affection towards music, who opened up incredible things. And a very decisive person was Ellie Ameling, who was the first really grande dame that I ever had the privilege to have a masterclass with. And she was very encouraging that I should be playing for singers, and that would be something that I should pursue. And she was the first person who ever invited me to come to Germany. I had never been in Europe. And at the time she did courses at the Schleswig-Holstein masterclasses. And that year I went there, and eventually there was a very interesting transition by taking part in the competition in London. And there we have Susan's cat.
One is just that's the tail of the other one. Sorry, my.
I'll try to make this very short. So I ended up coming to Germany because, yeah, I was there for the master classes with Ellie Ameling, and at the time in preparation for the song competition at the Wigmore Hall, and where I actually met Helmut Deutsch and decided then to really change completely my life, leave everything in the US. And now it has been exactly 16 years that I have come to Germany and experienced something of an astonishing life development, because it has been extremely challenging, and our profession is obviously a great challenge of various sorts. And now have this incredible joy to be a professor for song interpretation at the Musikhochschule in Nuremberg, where we have now a master's, which I just created. So it has been quite a journey. And in this process, you end up meeting wonderful people, wonderful musicians and institutions. And because I am somewhat of an obsessive person with song, I became very associated to the Hugo-Wolf-Akademie, and these people have given me the opportunity to do a number of wonderful programs and things. And I was asked then to curate, to put together a program of almost all of Hugo Wolf songs. We have to take in consideration, he wrote 301 songs, of which I know, which are published and available to us. I begin to work with the idea of trying to really program all 301, and is a little bit, let's say, a mouthful. It's more than one can bite. And originally I had to probably have played all the programs, and I changed my mind in that process, not because I didn't have the ambition or the desire to do it, but I saw the opportunity to do something with the younger generation and these wonderful young musicians, and to give them also a podium through the music of Hugo Wolf. And who better than all these astonishing young musicians to really put in the time and to work on this wonderful music. So that's actually, let's say, how it started in a way. But there are two forces of inspiration for this whole thing. First, the opportunity to do so, and my passion for Hugo Wolf's music, because I think every pianist who works with song repertoire is inevitably infected by Hugo Wolf's music because of his astonishing piano parts and his wonderful good taste for poetry. And also my meeting with Susan at Ravinia Festival in 2007. I was invited to be one of the pianists in the program. And Susan had at the time designed a fantastic concert program of only melodica settings. And we had the opportunity to work with her. And I was very taken by enthusiasm and knowledge and all the wonderful things she was getting out of us. And of course, giving her no time to breathe or peace. I took every opportunity I had to be around her and ask her questions. And she was the first person who began to really talk about a whole world of Hugo Wolf songs that I didn't know about. You know, when I asked her about one of her favorite songs of Hugo Wolf, and she said to me at the time, that was Heines, Sie haben heute Abend Gesellschaft, which is a song that Hugo Wolf composed when he was only 18 years old.
Honestly, I mean, I know, because I mean, well, not about me, but I mean, I actually, when I was really coming into the leader world, I was also, you know, I always wanted to sing songs. And when I got into the orbit of Elisabeth Schwarzkopf, it was extraordinarily exciting to work with her, and we worked certainly 75% on Hugo Wolf songs.
Oh, Wolf, yes.
Read through all sorts of, you know, and worked on them. But I must say, other than just curious interest in the very early songs, no one hears them very much. And I actually noticed on this program there are a significant number of songs that are not very regularly heard. So good for connect. Was it who's brilliant? Obviously, who gets to take credit for being brilliant, even though the brilliance is obvious that you had to have Youens curate the notes and keep all of this together.
This is Marcelo's doing. These programs
Marcelo,
are really brilliant.
We can get Susan to write. We've got a show here.
now who is trying to be modest here? Actually, it would have been possible to design something without Susan's inspirations, because at the beginning, there was the challenge that there are two pianists who have done wonderful cycles of complete Hugo Wolf songs. And they have done quasi in which we call the traditional way, which was apparently the way that Hugo Wolf would have liked to hear his songs, which means to have them all ordered together under the poets, like he gave out his compositions. But then I found a program of Hugo Wolf's own recital with 3 different singers in 1894, where he paced 25 songs together. And he does somewhat small groups of the same poets, but he mixed a lot of things together. And there was a kind of coherence there that really struck me. I thought, how interesting. He is already thinking thematically. He's already creating a program based on an idea of telling a story which is in between the stories.
This is, but it's very interesting to say, because the Abschlusskonzert yesterday of the Stipendiaten had them sing in opus groups of Schubert songs, which is, you know, where Schubert, with the various publishers towards the end of his life, you know, went back and started gathering things together. And it's, and there's a lot of reasons for that gathering. There's a lot of stuff about it. Sometimes it's a little vignette, and sometimes it's for other reasons. But it's a wonderful place. It's a comment. What happens is that the bouquet gets a little bit more varied. And,
Exactly.
and what struck me when I was made aware of this incredible project, and not only was made aware of it, we are extremely pleased and proud at the Hampsong Foundation to, in fact, be the housing, the house or the warehouse of the entire series and all of the notes you've written, all the poetry. So the Hampsong Foundation Hugo-Wolf project is, in fact, housing, I guess the word we use in English, the Hugo-Wolf, International Hugo-Wolf-Akademie information, and we're extremely proud of that, and I'm thrilled about it, and it's I think it is a very unique and incredibly needed, applaudable way to go back through again the Hugo-Wolf literature. Susan, since you're not mute, like you know, we did a program on the song Mirror of the World. And the idea was that we let composers talk, we let composers tell the story of cultural history. In other words, the byline was the history of culture, or cultural history, and it was first of all, it was the American cultural history scene. I took that theory or that thesis to Central Europe, from the Congress of Vienna to modern times. And what just was wonderful was the show that you wrote, which was essentially what happened to song when Wagner got a hold of it. And of course, a lot of forelooking and deep looking into Hugo Wolf. I want to give you, I don't have a question. I want to give you a platform. Can you get us from Schubert to Wolf?
Yes.
I can try. You know, Schubert and Wagner, I think, were both equally massive in Wolf's life. He once said, in both exasperation and reverence, "They fairly threaten me with Schubert, but should I be silent because a great man lived before me and wrote wonderful songs?" What a statement that is. It really is a 50-50 compound of worshipfulness and resentment at being part of the aftermath. It's one
Is there
reason.
A little bit of an echo from Schubert and Beethoven in that?
Oh, yes. Well, following in the immediate wake, or in Schubert's case, in the same city and same neighborhood as a demonstrably great composer, means having to think very seriously about what your own mission in life is. He had similar conflicted feelings about Wagner. He compared himself to seedlings that struggle for light and air beneath the shade of a great world ash tree, who, of course, is Wagner. And the compromise that he found, it's not a compromise, it's his way of appropriating the greatness that came before him and making of it something new. So he takes the containment, the boundedness of Schubertian and Schumannian song and splices into it post-Wagnerian harmonies. He has his own ideas about how to treat tonality and chord progressions that really isn't the same as Wagner's approach, but owes an obvious debt to him.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, he could be completely original. And I love the way he acknowledges his debts. One of his first Mörike songs in 1888 is it's not Mörike, it's Robert Reineck, and it's the Gesellenlied, the apprentice's song.
Yeah.
And the apprentice is rejoicing at finally being free and able to be his own master. And he goes through a catalog of the traditional Turner or Weisen, the Wagnerian leitmotifs in the Master Singers of Nuremberg, where Marcelo is now living.
Yeah.
And then breaks free at the end in joy. And you can hear the march of the Master Singers. You can hear this delighted play on a Wagnerian catalog of leitmotifs. Just a few weeks later than that, he plunges into the Mörike Lieder. And you can tell that he knew he was now free.
Right.
And he also pays debts to Schubert in ways that we gasp. Their Mörike song, Ganze so sehr, that I really love, but gave me migraine headaches for a long time because I couldn't figure the thing out. I couldn't determine why Wolf had made those compositional choices. Then I realized that the beginning of the piano introduction is an homage to the beginning of Schubert's Irrbild and has much the same connotation. And I just love the way song composers talk to one another across the decades and even across the centuries in their songs. It's just brilliant.
Or even the connection between Gesangweilers and Meeresstille, which is
yes, also... of course. Of course.
Yeah. And in this series that you're doing in these notes, when one reads them, are you bringing those kinds of things to us in these notes? Or
yes.
Well, Susan is doing the most incredible job, and I want to take the opportunity to say something which I think is incredibly relevant, because it's the first time all of Susan's notes, which are incredibly original and done with so much care and love and information and incredibly accessible, are going to be translated to German completely. At the end of this entire series of concerts, we are going to have the first ever published material of this sort in German language. They don't have a single book about Wolf in this form where songs are described and talked about.
That's true. The Eric Sams book was not ever translated into German, was it?
No.
It's also, I mean, it was a kind of Bible for many years. Back in the day, I had several LP. I'm sitting in a room with 25,000 LPs. Collected a lot of records. Not a lot of Wolf in this collection. I bought it from an old gentleman who was more into. Well, never mind. But I do have a lot. My private collection that I collected has a lot of Wolf, and of course Newman was just the Bible. for so many years. He wrote so eloquently and precipitously on Wolf. It's an amazing book. But you're absolutely right. We have been on the book. What kind of themes sort of cross various poets? Can you give us some ideas of that? Like nighttime or wandering or?
Well, that was also one of the things that I talked to Susan at the very beginning. It was how pretentious or crazy it could be to try to create collections of songs under a particular idea or phrase or poetic inspiration, because the songs sort of lead themselves to that, yeah? And what's very exciting from the very beginning, we could do groups of songs about springtime, passion and longing, fairy tales worlds, nocturnes, night songs. We could have groups of songs about women who have been abandoned. Yeah, you have role songs, which are incredible. You have a tremendous amount of spiritual, religious songs, both from the Spanish Liederbuch as well as religiously inspired songs. So Wolf gives a tremendous amount of possibilities there. We have songs about death, grief, and remembrance. We have groups of serenades at dawn. We have groups of loves, angers, scorns, and mockery. Lots of humor songs. So there is no end to some of these groupings, because we have already done about, in all the last 10 programs, which have taken quite a lot of time to be completed for various reasons, beginning 2016, but there has been already 10 programs and over 200 songs have been heard.
One of the things I love most about Marcelo's programs is the way he arranges the groupings. You get to hear a variety of different poets, stages of Wolf's development, from his teenage days to his, in some ways, long protracted maturity, coming fully into his own voice. And of course, one of the reasons I love that is that you get a sense of both the young Wolf who's experimenting, right? He's finding his own fingerprints in music, like chains of thirds, where you go through the song by a ladder of keys related by a major third, which is a very distinctive sounding maneuver. And you also hear his love of psychological reinterpretations of music in the outside world. It's one reason he loves serenades so much, or party music. You hear the etched, unfiltered love song on a guitar or whatever, and then the protagonist's mind seizes hold of it and warps it through his own anger, frustration, longing, whatever. I mean, Wolf knew that he was living in the age of psychological man. And he uses his songs to tell us that. Just the finest details of innermost subjectivity exploring its own caverns and byways. It's just astonishing.
But that's what you just said could have come out of our conversation about Schubert.
Exactly.
You know? But in some ways, it's, well, not in some ways, and we come to a little bit of a paradox, because Wolf, you know, very often I've heard people say, or it has been said, Wolf is the Vollendung, die Entwicklung des deutschen Lied. okay, the completion of it, you know, whatever genius started, Wolf essentially ended. Everything after Wolf is a bit of an echo, and everything between it. But you can digest that however you want. I don't like to make that kind of complete sense, but there is this kind of feeling, and Wolf had at his disposal a completely different harmonic palette, and it's that very harmonic palette that seems still a digestion problem today, because I mean, I can tell you as a professional singer, if you go to sort of the believing recital venues here or in America, and you've got a half of Wolf, you're not going to do the recital. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It has to be an extremely sophisticated venue who say, oh, well, if you insist, you know, but okay, well, can you do a half a Mahler? I said, well, no, you can't. I can't put Mahler and Wolf on the same program. It just doesn't, my brain won't do that.
It would have made both men mad.
There is this, I have two questions. First is easy question. Susan, when Marcelo came to you with this idea, with this cross poetic book theme, right? Had that been something that had been in your mind and desire before, or was it, and it was sort of, oh, finally somebody's asked for this, or was it a new moment? You thought, I haven't tried that. What an idea. What was that?
Oh, this is something that's been lurking in the back of, or had been lurking in the back of my mind for a long time, that I wanted, because I was sick of trying to bring favorite early songs or favorite neglected mature songs to singers and pianists' attention. I wanted a resource to be there. Mm-hmm. And besides, I thought, if there could be such a resource for Strauss, there damned well ought to be one for Wolf. And I was also upset because when I was young, I think it was more the done thing to involve a standard item in recitals. And then over the years, that fell away. And therefore, I feel like part of what Marcelo and I are doing is beating a drum loudly to say, this is still great. It will always be great. And there's so much here to discover.
Gosh, it's. I mean, that's now becomes the harder question. I mean, we all know that Lieder Abende are what they are. I think the digital world actually can help us a lot. These kinds of conversations, the kinds of inroads and if you will, preparation or awareness that we can offer people at their own pace, in their own room, at their own level of what they think they're ignorant or not. We who love song, you know, that's nothing about ignorance. If you listen to something and your heart goes like this, you're in it, you're done, you're good. You know, if that makes you curious to know about it, you're even better, you're good, it's fine. And if you don't like it, there's plenty more. It's just a win-win situation. But in the professional world, Wolf is still considered a hard chew. Pardon that American phrase, but you know what I mean. You know, it's tough. It's tough. Why? You know, why was it so self-understood in the 60s? And why was it so self-understood even before records were all that big a deal? And you know, if you look through the history of leaders singing in the 20th century, there's nobody that didn't sing Wolf songs. It just doesn't. I mean, Régis Crespin made a recording of Wolf and Brahms. I mean, come on. Exactly. I have a problem with Wolf and Mahler. You know, it's a little bit. You know, both guys are dead, and I'm sure neither one of them is happy to think that there's records being made with Brahms and Wolf. But that's but why today? How can we do this better? How can we get this threshold crossed again for Hugo Wolf?
I guess, if I may say something, and Susan can certainly say, I think that's exactly what we try in designing these programs, which of course we feel very passionate about, which is in a way to tell to give Wolf a voice through a new perspective by putting these songs together in groups of a particular atmosphere and having a conversation with the various different times of his compositions, but also sort of understanding that what is so incredible about Wolf, which is this incredible mix of music which is vocally completely independent from a instrumental narrative, and having this whole idea of having a piano part actually telling the psychology of a text or the subtext of a text while it's being told, and also to sort of
Wolf or Schubert? I forgot.
Well, let's just say.
Marcelo, you're absolutely right. This is, yeah. And also, ladies and gentlemen, when you see this concert and listen to this concert on the 29th, it's not only this programming that's very interesting, but you've also got myriad of different kinds of voices through the entire evening. And I think, I really think it behooves us, we passionate people in the leader world, to simply get out of our own stuffy boxes about what you can program together, how many people are actually going to sing something. That's one thing I absolutely adore about this Schubert week. I've got all these wonderful young colleagues, you know, from sopranos to basses to, you know, whatever. And you know, admitted that the week evenings are two singers, you know, one half of a singer, which is also very interesting. But then when you hear these, you know, like the in concert where they're all singing together and you're just going this bouquet way of looking at a composer. First of all, with Schubert, it's hard to believe that all of these songs came from one pen.
Yes.
That's the real zinger for everybody. You know, Schubert is almost indigestible in the fact that you can't get your head around it, is what I really mean. Wolf, when you have it like you're doing it, has exactly the same feeling to me. It's like, yes. Wait, this is of the same period, but this can't be the same person. No.
Right, this came from one person.
Exactly.
That's it also, I think, emphasizes something I used to tell my students about Wolf. These songs are filled with so many pictorial, harmonic, vocal and harmonic, psychological, subjective, you name it, nuances that they last a lifetime. You don't hear it just once and get it and then you're bored with it forever after. That's the reward for things that are more complex.
Absolutely, and the enormous good taste in poetry. There is hardly a song which is not worth reading and digesting.
I want to push back a little bit on that, just because, I mean, just my head's going Schubert, because I get a little nervous about people getting concerned that, you know, or the idea that the best poetry, the best composer is going to be the best song.
No, not necessarily.
No.
Certainly not. Yeah.
You know, I agree with you. I mean, you can sit and read an Eichendorff book, or I personally am besotted with Mörike. I just love these songs.
Me too. So
my favorite poet.
Films, you know, they're just so, you know, overwhelming. You know, but you're absolutely right. But I'm just saying that I don't want our public to get, that's a phenomenon with Wolf that is not a truism for the world of song.
No, not necessarily. Yeah.
The genius of Schubert is that he found every poet in their own terms and created music for that poetic language. Absolutely. And very often raised them to a level of poetic thought that they probably had struggled to find most of their lives. But we can go on that. This concert this concert that Cornelius put together, Cornelius, the director of it. What I thought maybe we'd do, ladies and gentlemen, is do a little screen sharing just to get your feet wet. So the next thing you'll see, not that you're going to get wet, but never mind. You should be seeing a Hugo-Wolf picture. I can run down. There's the man. He was not a laugh a minute. He was pretty intense human being. You really didn't want to have him criticize your concert. unless you were lucky. He's a very, but his personal life is complex and by any definition tragic. This is the, however, that's his picture. This is the IDAGIO page. I'm on the IDAGIO website here, and I put in, well, I was looking for Lotte Lehmann, but I put in, first of all, Hugo Wolf. I go back here, we can find, I mean, if you go to the website, you just put in Hugo, Wolf. The next thing you'll see is then you can choose him, and then you get all of these recordings, yada, 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 yada. You know, it just doesn't stop. Some of the greatest singers that ever walked the planet. And these are different compilations. Hugo Wolf. If you're looking for soprano songs, you can go here. If you're looking at mezzo, bass, violoncello, you know, there's just an endless amount of associations. The database of IDAGIO is one of the great classical music playgrounds. It really is amazing. And of course, and we'll show, you know, I made a little playlist. For instance, if you go, let's say if we go back up here, we just went Hugo Wolf, and let's just take the first thing that pops up here. The Quartetto di Cremona made the Wolf Serenade for Strings, and if you go over here, you can see more information about it. If I wanted to listen to it, and I push this, you see what's happening. I think, oh, it doesn't go. It doesn't tell you. You see this? This is all the other recordings in the database of IDAGIO of that particular piece. You get where I'm, if you're a student or a singer or a musician, this is gold. This is unbelievable. If you're just curious, it's still gold. It's really a fun thing to do. So then let's say I want to listen to this particular thing, or I want to listen to this album. I push on the album, I go to here, and these three dots, and I can say add to playlist. And I go up here, I've made myself a playlist, create playlist, I call it Hugo Wolf, and now it's in my playlist. And the fun thing is, and I'm done at IDAGIO, I'm on the website. It's got an app for iPad, it's got an app for Android, it's got an app for your phone. If I showed you my phone right now, instantaneously that playlist in its completeness is on my phone. Your ears and you go whatever, you're walking around, you can do whatever you want. Streaming is without question the future, and IDAGIO is the place for classical music. Ergo, our slogan. You're gonna have a good time. So here we go. If we go to these tracks, we've got the last thing I put in here was the part. I did have some fun. Do we want to just hear something of these titles? What do you want to hear? And then it'll be sort of, we'll see who's behind it. I have Lotte Lehmann, I have Hermann Pryor, Fischer Dieskau, I think I have Schwarzkopf. Who's doing Peregrina? Peregrina is Brigitte Fassbinder. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
This was
Not bad at all.
Begegno. I love Begegno. That's such a
I
fun.
do too.
Great.
Here's the Verschwiegene Lieder, which starts at that. Well, that's the beginning of the whole program. So why don't we play that? Just
Exactly.
we could just to get our ears a little bit around. Then I'll show you something else that I think you want to hear. You can't stop. Cool. I do this all the time, but I hope it whets your appetite. Go back and type in whatever you have here. I thought that this might be interesting to get a little bit different. This is Elizabeth Schwarzkopf in the Spanish Liederbuch, and this is a little bit of a different harmonic world that maybe you. cruel, I know. But I mean, just for fun, I have to say this was you would be surprised how many
Where's
young
it?
people today have never heard Lotte Lehmann. You know.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
I mean, there's something about that woman singing which is, for one thing, it's just so wonderfully right singing. You know,
Oh,
it's all
yes.
vibration, it's all on the breath, and yet every intent and every word is completely understood. And you know, there's an awful lot of Liedgesang heute that is just way too much speaking on pitch.
Right.
Exactly.
So much more musical information there, and it's just, well, anyway, we could play all night at this. And so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you get the idea of how much fun. And by the way, if you just jump on to IDAGIO, they have a whole bunch of things and composers you can look up. And there's, by the way, 20,000 classical composers on this website. I didn't even know there were 20,000 classical music composers, but there you are. I'm just now. What I thought might be interesting is go over to here. And this is the splash page of Der ganze Hugo-Wolf, the whole Hugo-Wolf. IDAGIO Global Concert Hall this is for the concert. These are your young singers that are going to be singing the 29th of January. So this is their splash page. This is the page of the Internationale Hugo-Wolf-Akademie. It's a wonderful place. And you can have fun with the Mediathek and the Liedbühne and all these archives. It's terrific. If you happen to find yourself on the Hampsong Foundation, let's get that picture out of here. And you happen to scroll down on our splash page, you'll see the Lieder Hugo-Wolf, not much less the Academy and the Classic Song and the Mirror. These are radio programs, Arts and Future splash page. We have quite a lot of resources for people who like to sing. But if you go to the Lieder Hugo-Wolf, this is where we house for all of you the programs with the listings and so forth, and they are interactive. When we go down here, this is the program. So if you want to go to the program 1, or say you want program 3, which you saw the titles of it, then you will get into the introduction essay by Susan Youens. So we've got all that at your disposal. You can't go wrong, and you might want to dip into some of these places before you hear the concert on the 29th, or maybe just listen to the concert, and I promise you, your curiosity is going to jump, and you're going to want to somehow put up. I've got one page here, one browser page that has these 3 sites. I might add another score site to it, and you can just go in and out, and it's a world that we certainly didn't have growing up, did we, Susan?
No, not at all.
Screen sharings that were all nice and alive. You know, there's just endless amounts of these kinds of programs that we can do. And I hope that, by the way, so you've done 200, you've got 100 left. How many more programs do you think you need to perform to complete your task?
Well, we have planned about 5 programs more, but one very last which will be, in fact, a conversation between Hugo Wolf, his idol Wagner, and his greatest enemy Brahms.
And is that argument going to be fought out in song?
Well, not necessarily. We're just going to have very beautiful things with these guys being together. But the idea of representing that part of his world, I think it can be quite exciting.
And how long, what do you think, over the next year and a half, maybe?
I believe Cornelia's plan is to have it finished in 2022. Of course, a great deal got lost last year, which couldn't be done, and we don't know what actually will be possible this year. But
all of the artists have signed off, and all of these have been recorded. So eventually there will be a live discography as well as Susan's book in English and German.
Well, we certainly have been recording. Originally, it was not even intended for that purpose. And it's being passionate that some had this great idea to say, let's register this for the Mediatek and have all this music going on. Because it was at a time where we didn't know that the world would turn out to experience what we are experiencing now. But Susan's programs will be there to be and to entice our excitement about many of these programs. And like the program which is coming on the 29th, which is just a little bit of a taste for the whole thing, I would encourage people to go and look into Susan's
have programs on into the future that will highlight the Academy and this extraordinary series and the singers.
Great.
So, but I'm extremely pleased to see that what I said at the beginning of the show. I think 4 or 5 of your singers are Lied Academy, Heidelberg Lied Academy graduates. But that makes sense. The new generation is very eager. I mean, we have so many wonderful young singers that want to sing songs and sing them so beautifully and want to study and are incredibly fleißig, as we say, very industrious and committed. And it's thrilling, and it's an honor to be part of that maturation process with them. And that's where the Hampsong Foundation is there to connect the dots, and you guys are one incredibly huge dot. The Schubert, I think we have to get Schubert and Wolf marching toward each other. Somewhere in
Yes.
somewhere in between, and there's going to be this huge embrace. You know, one of the things we were talking earlier, what I've always been astounded by 1888, 1889. And it started with Hugo Wolf, but then if you just plant the first symphony of Mahler,
Right.
Yeah.
Death and Transfiguration of Strauss. I mean,
Debussy.
not to mention many other things. I've never, however, actually seen any contemporary writing of that specific period of somebody enlightened who said, our world just changed. I mean, before these 3 things happened, there had been nothing like either one of these. No one had ever written a first symphony like Gustav Mahler. Death and Transfiguration is just Tod und Verklärung.
Astonishing.
You know, and this came after Mahler was first, and then of course it took a while. I mean, Wolf had these 88, 89 storm of life, Eichendorff, Miracle, Eichendorff, Goethe, and then he started to lose grip, didn't he?
Yes.
He had these fallow periods.
How soon after 88 and 89, 1888 and 89, this outburst of songwriting, how soon before those songs, because of that incredible blossoming, how long did it take before we were hearing them? Another 5 years or 2 years, or was it very quick? Were we hearing recitals in 1891, fresh off the pressing of Hugo Wolf?
I don't know if Susan knows that information, because actually he was playing a great deal of his songs in Vienna with various different musicians at the time. Yes. But we have very little documentation of these recitals. In fact, like I mentioned at the beginning, there is this one recital, and that's much later. So it's difficult to judge. I don't know if Susan can answer that question precisely.
Is that a world of Wolf musicology that's still to be opened up or categorized? I mean, it's like these incredible books that have come out later of Mahler, where we know what he had for breakfast in every inn that.
Wow. There is certainly a Wolf encyclopedia, so maybe we just should take a look into that.
Right. Well, he was sending his songs as both in manuscript and as soon as they appeared in print to friends in Germany, to members of Marika's circle. And of course, he was accompanying programs of his own songs. So he was very concerned with getting them out there. But I have a wonderful former student now launched into the world on her own, Chanda Vanderhart
Yes.
in Vienna. And she has done groundbreaking research on programming of song recitals in 19th century Vienna. And I think when she gets this book finished, a lot of eyebrows will fly up into hairline.
Out to her, Susan. Thank you very much. We're going to hear from her.
Oh, we are. We are.
I tell you, I mean, quite honestly, it behooves all of us, you know, to one of the things that really helps our younger generation is programming. Programming is tough.
Yes.
And I mean, I immediately went into it, looked at all your programs, I'm like, oh, I never thought about putting those songs together. I started making wolf groups again, you know.
Maybe you get excited about singing one of the programs, you know.
I'm very excited about singing any of the programs. I really would like to come by the Academy. I have to say, I would.
You must.
It would be an honor. I was incredibly honored for their medallion. Wolfram and I were moved beyond belief. And can you imagine our matinee, our Widmungsmatinee was sung by Anya Hateros.
It was wonderful, yeah.
Wow.
Were you there?
I saw it online because I had a concert in the same evening as you guys received the medal.
Every time you mention somebody or somebody you came from or worked with, it's somebody I know. I don't know why our paths have not crossed.
It's really unfortunate, but I'm very happy that this is happening now.
We're crossing now. Anyway.
Yeah, a great pleasure.
You want to leave us with? I got one for you. I did this to you before, Susan. All week long, in the interviews of extremely well-meaning, supportive journalists in Berlin, but inevitably, warum Schubert? Ich habe Anlass genommen, natürlich, I always took the opportunity to web that out a bit and have a good conversation, but I did this to you today, Susan, but given the edges that we've talked about with Wolf and the creator and so forth, Marcelo first, warum Wolf?
Well, why not?
Why not? Why Schubert? I said, why not Schubert? Okay, the answer. I'll go for it.
Well, I think that every initiative is caused by some kind of the motivation to do anything is passion, is excitement, is this sort of, at least I have to speak for myself. You know, I'm not I don't see myself in a category of musicians who have been made to think in a certain way. I still very much the Brazilian farm boy who dreamed of a world which was not the world in which I lived. So this music gives us an opportunity to sort of to remain very, very youthful and very naive and to dream with the thoughts of a musician. I always feel like that one of the things that we feel most compelled to do when we look at a piece of music is that it's for us like a testament, right? It's like the wishes of someone who have been put down to paper, but you really want to find a music that happened before that. That music, it has not been yet being written. So the motivation, the dream, the wish of what the song should be like. And in that sense, I would put a lot of composers that I love, certainly Schubert and certainly Wolf. Yeah, I felt like when I read these songs for the first time or when I encountered them for the first time, I stopped thinking about playing the piano or this being a material thing that I connected to in a certain professional way. It just allowed me to go to a place within myself which was much more meaningful than all of that.
I also think that one song leads to another.
Yes.
The very first Wolf song I ever encountered was Das verlassene Mädlein. And I remember when I first heard it, I went, oh, is there more like this?
Yeah.
And of course there was and is. So you just get led by the nose through one dream, one marvel after another.
And you said somebody, what about people that are apprehensive? What about people that are not that versed in song? Can you start with Wolf?
I don't see why not, actually. You know, if you start with something as haunting as, let's say, Verschwiegene Liebe, or as märchenhaft and enchanting as Der Gärtner, and then you go by degrees from there into the thicker post-Wagnerian entanglements, you know, by the time you get there, you have a convert. You have an addict.
And it'll be difficult to resist the
Right.
and the Feuerheit. You get wrapped.
Absolutely.
I agree.
We've done everything we can, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't go to the concert on the 29th of January, it's not your loss. 29th January, IDAGIO Global Concert Hall, Arts at Future. It's about some of the most incredible music ever written. It's about the newest generation of dedicated singers coming on. It's about some of the most knowledgeable people about song in general and Hugo-Wolf specifically, two of which you have met this evening. It's a win-win-win evening. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being our soundboard for everything song and beyond. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.